We have half a hospital bed for every 1,000 Indians, one of the lowest ratios in the world. Warriors in diapers. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Akshat Johri. I actually spent most of my teenage year living in Melbourne, in Australia. That's where I studied medicine. I got my degree and met my wife, Shivani, there as well. We got married, and today we've got a wonderful 5-year-old daughter, Janvi. My parents were getting on. They actually live in a town called Bhopal in India. So Shivani and I had a discussion, and we decided that it would probably be best that we pack up shop here and we move to India. Now, since medicine is all that I've ever known, I thought it would probably make more sense that I carry on practicing medicine from Bhopal, although I'm pretty sure that most foreign return doctors would prefer to probably work in one of the more bigger cities like Mumbai or Delhi. See, we in our profession have this thing called the Hippocratic Oath. Now, as such, it's a really long and overdrawn thing, so I won't bore you with it all, but there is one phrase that always stuck with me. May it be granted to me that I partake of life fully and the practice of my art, gaining respect of all men for all time. All men for all time. You know, it felt very noble to be able to offer my services in a place that didn't quite see doctors of, well, my caliber. Humble I am not. Call it the big fish and the small pond syndrome, but I was really enjoying being the new fancy doctor on the block. In fact, I actually heard someone the other day say to them, "Oh, you know that international doctor?" I was like, "What?" So if I was in Melbourne, I would just be one of the regulars, but over here, I'm the international doctor. Anyways, look, 6 months in, life was going really well. I had completely settled into my new job. I was really enjoying it. My parents, they were ecstatic that I was here, so proud, telling everybody they met that, "Oh, my son's a doctor, my son's a doctor." Shivani had made some really good friends here. They would organize all these play dates for the kids. They do all these mothers group things, and it was really good. And Janvi, well, she was really enjoying attending all of these play dates. So to be honest, everybody was really happy and life was good. And then came the big brother, the grand corrector, COVID freaking 19. I mean, I remember I was sitting in our hospital canteen. It was at nighttime when I saw it come up on the news. Now, at first glance, it seemed like something that would just come and pass us by. Sure, I'm going to have to attend a few seminars. You know, by all means, they're going to tell us all about these protocols that we have to follow, and we would deal with the odd case here and there. And in time, just like everything else, this too would move on. But it didn't, did it? As the cases grew, it grew from 2 here to 4 there to 10 there to 100 there. And by the time it arrived at India's doorstep, I remember I was sitting with Shivani in our building's garden discussing the Holi party. And it was at that time, I think it was with our neighbors, that's right. We were discussing what dance the kids will do for the Holi party this year. And it was at that moment that I received the phone call telling me that we had just received our first COVID-19 positive patient. I pretty much had to pack up shop and leave straight away to the hospital. There's very little about the situation that I can probably tell you that you probably already don't know. As the cases increased, so did the hours at the hospital. And now that memory of me sitting with Shivani and planning that Holi party felt like a distant memory. In fact, that was the last memory I have of a time that felt predictable, of a day that I felt even remotely in control. See, we as doctors, we're used to being in situations where we have no control, right? And that's completely fine. At the end of the day, we are dealing with a mysterious human body with nothing but just a handful of scientific textbooks to back us up. I know what you guys think. You guys think that a lot of what we do is science, but the truth is a lot of what we do is just the faith that that science will work. We are gambling just like you. The only difference is we are slightly more informed gamblers. But what do you do when you come across a crisis that has never ever been studied about in a textbook ever before? What do you do when you are dealing with something that has never ever been dealt with at this scale ever before? And you know what's hard? What's even harder than dealing with a patient that is COVID-19 positive is dealing with a patient that is not. How do you turn your back on a patient just because they have a fever, but it's not related to COVID-19? How do you tell someone, "I'm sorry, but can you please go home because you've only got just the flu?" Just the flu. Just the flu. The flu was a pandemic not too many years ago that nearly wiped out half the globe. Just the flu. I mean, how do you tell someone that I'm sorry, sir, but your cancer treatment is not deemed essential right now? How? And I guess with the lack of resources that we currently have, I knew that this was a war that India could not afford to lose. But there is a bigger war, and that is the war on information. We have got to be history's most overstimulated, most over-informed generation ever. I have spent majority of my career debunking patients' theories about all kinds of diseases that they have. People will come to me and they will say, "But sir, I think I have skin cancer." I'm like, "That's a scratch." And people will say, "Oh, but I think I have brain tumor." I'm like, "You don't have brain tumor. You're just hungover." you know. But in this case, anyone's guess felt as good as my own. I mean, me and my esteemed colleagues no longer felt the same kind of confidence we once upon a time did when we told people, please take 2 of this, or drink a little more fluids, or just relax and have some rest. Would you like me to write you a doctor's certificate? You know, take some time, you'll be cured, don't worry. But in this case, there is no cure. There is no vaccine. It's just a waiting game, waiting for someone to either recover, to assist them in dying as comfortably as possible. I FaceTime Shivani and Janvi in whatever breaks that I can. In fact, I remember when Janvi first came on the FaceTime, she looked at me and she went, "Ah, oh my God." And it's because of all the protective gear that I had on. So she probably thought that I looked like one of the Dementors out of a Harry Potter films or something. But it's interesting though, but initially I could see that Shivani looked very overwhelmed. And as time kept going, I now can just read it on her face that she is cursing herself for the day that she convinced her dad to let her marry a doctor. It's a really strange and undescribable feeling. It's so bittersweet that in one way, I feel so refreshed and so recharged when I talk to them. But then at the same time, I feel so extremely drained. See, here on the front line, we have no cognition of time. But when I speak to them, I'm reminded of how time is passing outside. I'm reminded of Shivani's dal chawal. I'm reminded of my favorite chili chicken. I'm reminded of how Janvi will come and give me cuddles in the morning and how I just Netflix and chill with Shivani at night. I'm reminded of how I have cold showers and then I'll lie in bed and I'll read a nice book. I mean, don't get me wrong, I cherish those memories. That is something I love. But it also saddens me because I don't know when I'm going to get to experience them again. Coming back to the protective gear, I don't know how many of you know this, but it takes forever to get in and out of that protective gear. So just to give you a little bit of a hint, you've got to first sanitize beforehand. Then you've got the face mask, the visors, the headgear, the gloves, the shoes. Then you've got the underlayer. Then you've got the overlayer. Then you've got to tape yourself so that nothing can seep through any gaps. So taking bathroom breaks is not exactly easy. You can't just take it all off because then you're exposing yourself to germs and then you've got to sanitize and re-sanitize. And so what we've adopted at our hospital, and in fact in many other parts of the world, is we wear diapers now. So essentially our diapers are our restrooms and we defecate in them. Yeah. I actually muck around with Shivani that her daughter has just left the diapers and now her husband's in them. But, you know, I, who once upon a time saw myself as this new hotshot on the block, is now amongst my equals. And I'm watching them all deal with this ordeal in the best way that they can, working at a potential that I have never seen them work at before. I didn't even know it was humanly possible. You know, the hospital was and it still is extremely understaffed. And because there's such lack of public transport at the moment, I I'm seeing hierarchies completely get demolished. Just the other day, I think it was 2 days ago, I saw a nurse, a pune, a ward boy, and a surgeon all commute to work together because they were all living in the same area. For me, though, I mean, that's close to impossible. I have a 5-year-old at home, so there's absolutely no way that I was ever going to go home. The hospital did tell me that they would try and organize a hotel for me, but what do I do in the meantime? Well, I'll show you. So I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm actually sitting in my car at the moment. Um, I have my books here. I have my laptop, my little Wi-Fi dongle. I've got a bag full of clothes. Let's see what else. I've got some snacks here. And got Janvi's little teddy over here, which I hold on to very tightly every time I miss her. You know, it's weird. It feels like life has just gone full circle. There was a time when I used to live in Melbourne and, I was a student. I didn't have enough money to pay rent. So I was living at the back of my car. And many years later, here we are again. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's also extremely convenient. There are many times that I can just drive underneath my house and then Shivani and Janvi will come up to the window and they'll just wave at me and I'll wave back at them. And, Janvi will sometimes ask Shivani, why can't Dada come up? And Shivani's got no answers to that. There are many times that Shivani will put Janvi to sleep and then she'll come down to the car and she'll be on that side of the glass window of the car and I'll be on this side and we'll just, believe it or not, I am dreading the day that the hospital will give me a hotel room because it probably means that I won't be able to do this and see them as often or as conveniently as I'd like to. On my colony wale, those guys are also characters, all of them. Like these guys, it is so amazing. Like these guys will, I don't even know what these face smash apps are. I don't know what it is, but what they'll do is they'll take my face and they will morph it onto like the body of Iron Man. And then they will put it on our WhatsApp groups and they will send it out to everyone saying, oh, look, my friend, Dr. Jody, he's fighting on the front line. I mean, what is incredible is people do talk about how the skies have now cleared because there's less vehicles on the road, there's less pollution. I'm hearing from people that they are spending more and more time with their families, that they're moving away from the hustle and bustle, and that they're starting to contemplate the meaningless of it all. But me, I don't get to see those guys. I don't get to see my families. I don't even have a minute in my day to be able to contemplate what has meaning and what doesn't. All I have are just a bunch of patients who are all struggling to breathe, wanting to see their families. I can't even begin to tell you the weight that I carry knowing that I am the last person so many people spoke to before they left this world. I don't blame anyone though. I don't blame anyone because, I mean, at the end of the day, this big brother, this grand corrector, it came for all of us equally, right? I mean, just the other day, I saw a 2-month-old baby and a 90-year-old grandmother all recover. So there is hope. And I suppose that's probably the best thing about it is that this thing does not discriminate. I'm so happy to see that people are able to find the silver lining in these dark times. Me, perhaps I am so deep within these dark clouds that silver lining currently is out of my vision's reach. Warriors in diapers.